Hello there, all you Toaru lovely people that have been Toaru for I don't know however long, but welcome to a new series, a separate series, totally not related to the podcast discussion about the randomizer that we have been doing separately on the channel that you should totally check out. This is item 1. We have read it, we're going to be reviewing it. It's going to be awesome, it's going to be convoluted, it's going to be ranty. But that's just the way we like it if you've seen any of our other content. Welcome. This is me and Bedhead. We both are going to be discussing, as stated earlier, item 1. Please continue, Bedhead.
So, a certain dark side item, huh? I think my main motivator for reading this was the season 4 announcement for Railgun, and knowing that item's getting a anime adaptation. Oh my gosh, I wanted to hop on a novel so bad.
Yep. It's crazy, brother. It's absolutely wild how people reacted.
For it being such I think at the time a 3 or 4 volume series, it's just getting an anime adaptation so soon. It's really awesome to see.
The weirdest part, actually, fun fact, is we're gonna meander about for like 10 minutes before we actually get into discussing the volume. But to give a bit of context on how crazy this is, first of all, as soon as item was announced, it did a separate announcement before the book even fucking came out. Like, the publisher did a separate announcement, and at the time, it wasn't clear if it was an adaptation or was it like separate thing for item. But after volume 1 came out and the manga actually started serializing, it became obvious, no, the manga is actually adapting the events from the novel. But like 3 months back, people started noticing, so some of the plot points are actually deviating from the actual novel. So it's going to be interesting on how the anime is going to go about it. Of course, it's a light novel adaptation as far as anyone knows, but the manga should be really, really helpful if they do decide to do a storyboard including that, which I hope they do, of course. And if it's a hit, if they properly decide to do it, oh my god, I just hope they do. It's going to be the first proper light novel adaptation of any index series that has been serialized into an anime, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, it's a really big deal. This is the tiniest context before we continue on. I was actually because this was announced at the Dengeki Bunko Festival. I think it's already been like 1 month since the announcement, right? 1 or 2 months, I'd say.
Probably.
I can't exactly remember, but at the time, yeah, it's been a bit. At the time, I was actually in another server, Toaru related, where some people were actively gawking at the live stream that was going on, trying to see if something Toaru related comes up, and Mr. Aeon was with us. So they did a segment of something special. So people got curious, and something started playing, alright? And I don't know how the fuck, but just from the OST alone, somebody in the VC recognized it, but told us about it later that this was probably Toaru related. And then the windmill came on screen. Me, along with 2 other people, jumped on that fact, and were like, wait, what? Windmills? Wait, no. No way. What? And then the fucking announcement hit us. Boy. We're getting item. People were started going wild. Aeon did a complete shriek out in the middle of the public. He didn't care. He wanted to get home ASAP. He left the VC, not knowing that they hit us with the double whammy, followed by Railgun Season 4 announcement. Yeah, that day was memorable as all Toaru fans lost their shit. Some people got a little too much copium, and started saying, oh wait, they're already doing this. Surely, see, Index Season 4. But unfortunately, no announcement until now. And here's my thing, okay? They're probably going to announce it later as a separate thing after Item and Railgun 4 do well. No, I mean, after they have started serializing, they're going to focus their full focus into Season 4 later down the line. That's just my guess. I can be wrong. I am a bit naive, optimist, and a bit of a realist, so yeah, take my word with a big piece of salt. But yeah, that's about it. Let us continue. Anything you want to add, Bedhead, through that entire rant?
Honestly, I just remember waking up to that announcement news. I forgot it was somewhere in my long list of Discord notifications that I was checking, but I was like just still dazed. Like a minute into waking up, I'm just like, are you seriously kidding me? Is there really like a new like index announcements of any sort? So I went to the Discord, I checked the YouTube, and I just flipped out. It was the best Sunday news I've ever received. It was just awesome.
And the really funny part is, following that, it became the worst Sunday evening because you figured out that the
Oh, that's right. That was the worst.
stuff got corrupted. That's unfortunate.
I
If anyone
literally forgot about that.
knows what happened with that.
Index, that Sunday became the best and worst day of my life due to Index. Index is such a marvel for doing that to me. Index has done horrid things to my life, but yep, I woke up the same day to get item and Railgun 4, and then towards the end of that rehearsal, probably at like 3 to 4, I check OT20 and audio was fucking fucked up. I loved my life right there.
This is, in my opinion, some people may disagree with me, but in my opinion, the best start Item could have gotten. And about 40% of the sentiment purely comes from the fact how the ending was executed, which we will get to. And that's why I gave Item, a 10 out of 10, while keeping it in consideration that this is the first volume of a spin-off series. So got an easier 10 out of 10 compared to if it was a mainline novel. But yes, that's my thought process and overall feelings and impressions. Overall, general thoughts. What about you?
This is the story of a summer from over a year ago. In other words, it is a retro, modern, high-tech, and smart incident from the past. It is the crime-soaked story of how the dark side team named Item gained its fourth member. 10 out of 10 start. 10 out of 10 volume. Item, for this being a backstory, I genuinely loved how quick the plot is to start. How quick we see Mugino and the others in the dark side just taking action. And I love the little calm bits of the first, essentially the first part of like the prologue is like explosion. They're out on a job to destroy whatever, but then they go in. I think their target was the room where Kinohara was in, right? And so they free Kinohara and they free the other girl who I think is an NT1. I don't remember her name. All I know is I'm pretty sure she should have been NT1. But they free Kinohara and essentially frame her, and then boom, the lab explodes. It is just awesome to see. And then I'm pretty sure the next scene is just them at the 13 Bells Hotel. I'm like, what? Or is it 15 Bells? That sounds more familiar. Whatever, they're at the apartment complex, and it's just like calm moment right after the action. It's just what it feels so quick. It reminds me of Chainsaw Man. That series has action, and Item started amazingly, and it kept my interest all the way to the end. But something that continues to strike me as super, super interesting, even in reading item 2, is that we see Mugino, Kinohara, Frenda, and Takitsubo, right? I remember from probably Railgun S and maybe some interactions in main series index that Brenda is always in Mugino's face and getting some sort of reaction out of her. I never did expect a year prior to main story that it's Takitsubo who is like Mugino's understander, and she really it's saying that she like knows all her landmines and goes around that and says things that not even Mugino would dare say, and it's super striking. Like Takitsubo, wow. But it really it's just super interesting to see how this 4-girl team operate in a dark side. I really do like that. And the way this plot is structured in this first volume of Item is basically a 4-girl team versus a 4-girl team. There's another group claiming to be Item, and I'm like, hold on a second there. There ain't no way. But I think the funnier bit is that the supposed 5th member of Item just randomly showing up on their doorstep after saving Kinohara and gaining that 4th member. But now those two are competing for, member number 4. So, but then the twist at the end we'll get to later. But I just feel like it's just so funny seeing like action with calm moments, funny moments, and then back to the action, and then even deeper going into the dark side bit of stuff. I really liked just how this volume was structured. It reminds me of Chainsaw Man. It reminds me of just, a lot of dark side underworld story bits that honestly, in funny phrasing, should get more light. But it's a dark side, so technically they shouldn't. But I really did enjoy this volume a lot.
I want to point out 3 things. First of all, this volume is kind of in a huge contrast with how quickly it gets things done and how the plot progresses to the mainline novels, because there it's just in the original series of OT Old Testament it was 13 to 12 volumes of build up, and then in NT it was 8 volumes of build up. GT it's 5 volumes of build up. We as Toaru fans are used to a lot of build up, but this light novel spin-off is kind of doing that point on its head. And the second point is Kamachi, as I've mentioned in other recordings, but Kamachi it's like his writing quality really shines when he's writing darker, grittier settings, like stuff like The Dark Side, OT19, NT10, and GT10 I would consider so. But that's its own separate thing. But generally darker side, including this one as well, Item. I don't know what it is, but it's like a personal strength of Kamachi where he just writes these settings a bit more realistically, a bit more believably, better than the general index volume. Not to shit on index volumes, but just it can be a bit of a delicious same quality. Depends on the volume you're reading, but it's kind of act that Kamachi is known for his darker settings because that's where his writing truly shines. But Bedhead, do you remember what was the facility that Item had been ordered to destroy?
Not exactly. That was like a month ago for me.
Does the Dark Me project ring any bells?
Oh, yeah. It's the project where Kinohara, the other girl, and the other girl in the Dark Matter one shot were involved in that project to take a portion of accelerator stop patterns into them.
Funny thing is, the Dark Me project kind of permeates a lot of the index media in Index, and in Railgun as well, then in the Dark Side Matter volume, as you said. It's like we know so much stuff resulting from the project, but you've never really had like a first look as to how. I mean, we've seen snippets of what happened in the project, but we never really knew how it came to the end. Now, this is people just assume that anti-skill discovered the project and raided the place. It is exactly what happens at the end, but the person who actually brought it down. It's really interesting to know that it was actually
Item. I didn't even give it that much thought. I didn't make that connection.
So happened
because I knew of the Dark Main project and they've referenced it a few times in 1 and 2, but I'm just like, I know the connection, Dark Matter, Kinohara, that one girl. I honestly didn't know how I didn't think of it earlier.
Yeah, so it's kind of really interesting. And then just because they needed a defensive Esper, they chose Kinohara. And oh boy, is that foreshadowing for NT1. Actually, yeah, he hinted at that foreshadowing, continuing with some paragraph beyond that choice. Between the lines was interesting because it just gave you a look. Someone is keeping an eye on these item girls and writing personal notes on their files. So somebody's tracking the whole item group. And that's the interesting part. Of course, it was a twist that there's a 5th member. It was quite a twist in how that ended up at the end as well, but wait with your run, Bedhead.
To dive a little farther into the novel, I forgot the supposed 5th member's name, but I find it cool how they have to track down the Colosseum.
It's Hanano.
Hanano? Hanano.
5th member's name is Hanano.
Hanano.
Yeah, Hanano. However you would like to pronounce it, I don't mind. I'm not one of those elitists that's gonna be like, it's Japanese names. You should pronounce Japanese names. Why do you think accents exist then in the world?
I've listened to enough anime to get the good gist of how it's pronounced. But it's like chapter 1 being the 5th girl, being the, Kinohara and Hanano, basically. So what keeps surprising me about this side story centering itself solely on Item and the dark side is that they have fair fights for things in areas of what you would presume a dark side to not be fair over. Like in finding the Colosseum, there's like organized booths under umbrellas, and I think Mugino even said that like when they're watching the fights, why are they so tight on following the rules when they're in the dark side? It's just funny how there can be fair fights and people like Mugino caring for her teammates and just regular human emotion even in dark side. It's so, even I don't expect that when I'm reading it, and it's super nice to know. But we have basically Kinohara versus Hanano and just trying to get the 5th member spot. And they're fairly trying to test and use each other's talents. And what was her name? We get to see the one who can control the liquid metal. We get to see her. That was really shocking. And how she wanted to attack the windowless building. So just all these dark side connections popping up everywhere is really cool.
Yeah, I forgot her name, but so interesting seeing her here because she had to attack the windowless building from that point onwards, and she kind of did mention offhandedly. I think it's in item 2 or towards the end of item 1, somewhere lines, but she didn't give up on it, and that led to events in Railgun T.
To continue any thoughts, it's honestly been.
Starting.
I know I don't remember her name.
Sorry, go ahead.
What if I just look up her power?
I think it's Mitsuri, or it's something with them. That's what I remember.
Mitori. Yeah,
Yeah,
her. She's cool. I like her. To continue any random thoughts, it's been a little too long since I've read or finished reading item 1, but my main highlights that I keep thinking that are rent free in my head. I have a couple pages bookmarked, but to get there, I love how we see the other 4-girl team claiming to be item, and so this volume is just proving who's the better item. Is it going to be fraudulent item or the OG item? But who is the real item? Honestly, who came first? I don't know. But it's cool seeing how Kinohara was... No, not Kinohara. Hanano was defending Takitsubo, and then she gets captured. And that whole subplot... Ooh, I love seeing an angry Mugino. But then... I like seeing how every fight was separate by themselves. And at first it was just a... First it was just a task of getting all like the 80 billion in money cards because their bank account got frozen. And seeing that was pretty funny. But
yeah,
how it escalates is that when Mugino vaporizes one of the teammates, now they're down 1. And at the end of the day, Takitsubo is saved, but they captured Hanano. So each team is down 1 member. Technically. Even though she's not the official force member, they're fighting for that spot.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite things in the time that Hanano is captured is Mugino doing her absolute best, which again throws me off because she's super determined. She won't say it out loud, but she's doing everything in her power to want to find and save Hanano. And also, I don't remember much about the beginning when they talked about Mugino's like family, but apparently she comes from a well-off family, but she wants to be independent. Good for her. More respect. But she is a crazy bitch. It just throws me for a loop that Mugino would work so hard for this person that's not even an official member yet. So seeing these more humane sides of Mugino, especially in Volume 2, just surprises me. I think the writing of this first volume, not only did it hook me on very good, it got me super attached and probably more respect for these 4 characters compared to if I have not read it. But one of my favorite parts on the opposite end of when the opposing item captured Hanano is when she lights up the explosive that she's been hiding and kills the other 2 that have been capturing her. One of my favorite paragraphs in the first volume is after it goes off in between the lines 3 of chapter... What is this? Of chapter 3 was... This part right here. She could barely see the floor in the dark, so she ended up kicking something. It was about the size of a soccer ball, but heavier. It was a human's head. It was Inoue's. And I'm like, oh my god. It exploded and actually committed to deaths. Already this series is dark side and committing to human deaths, but it just shocked me to know that it's hard when an explosion. I don't expect much death or anything, but just seeing this, the description of the human head rolling and hitting something, I'm like, oh my god, it's real. It's graphically detailed. I loved it. One of my favorite things in this whole volume. And now the girl claiming to be the number 6. I kind of forgot about that. The leader is someone claiming to be the number 6. The Dark Side's Bane, a heavy mystery, not even in original series, but in the Dark Side too. The Dark Side's Bane, better stay out of trouble too much or else they'll come beat the shit out of you. I love this mystery. The overarching mystery of what is a number 6. I love it. But now the enemy item is down to one person, and OG, well, the premise of Hanano also dying was amazing because everyone's angry. Seeing angry Frenda, angry Mugino. Oh my gosh, I loved it. Revenge plot activated. Then the final chapter of just item trapping that one girl in like the terminal bus station, and just the way how everyone teamed up, and Mugino not even caring about the money anymore. She wants to avenge Hanano because of the explosion, and how that essentially that tipped them off because they were in the wrong hideout. And it's funny how they were a floor lower than them for their hideout. Super smart move. I didn't expect that at all. But just the way how this whole plot builds to this rise and end of this plot is amazing. Kamachi really killed it with this dark side. This fresh introduction to 1 year in the past of just this dark side perspective of item. And also at the end when Mugino vaporized the self-supposed number 6, she also got electroshocked and died for like a minute or two. Oh my god. Consequences and their actions. I love commitment to that. I thought Mugino could have kept herself safe by firing multiple meltdowners to keep her afloat, but no, she fell too. It broke me. It broke my prediction. So hell yeah. I love all that. And then at the end, she's apparently an adult, and adults can't use Esper powers, so the level 0 label really does help her out. But she's alive, can smoke and drink, so holy shit. I didn't expect that at all. And it was hinted when there was no body in the coffin for the funeral, but wow. Item 1 doing this big fight of item versus item, being planned out too, I'm pretty sure. They said that. Really threw me. I loved it. And I read volume 2 super quickly and with great expectations.
Alright, so to now go on a rant of pointing out some stuff that you may or may not remember. So this is a prequel. So people were unsure how Kamachi was gonna write Mugino. That a lot of people were pleasantly surprised how good the writing was, and you're right. Mugino is someone, as described by a fellow on Aeon's podcast. Mugino is someone who would kind of lose. It seems like she'd lose a bit of her sleep if some innocents are involved. But compared to like another dark side group, for example, school, where Kakine would just kill a random person on the street and be happily sleeping like nothing happened. So they do kind of care about the normal people. Now, this is something that I talked about, that I'll actually talk about in item 2, but I think the point really comes from the fact that item is kind of initially meant to be as like a trigger for the voice on the phone to keep the dark side in check, because that's what they're essentially doing, right?
Oh, you reminded me of a cool point, but keep going on.
Yeah. And it shows through because of how they do stuff and how they're really against involving civilians, even though about 70% of that just comes from the part of self-preserving themselves as dark side members, because if you cause a big enough incident, the dark side would be exposed to the light side, and the dark side wouldn't be able to continue its operations to like they want to. So it's more so like it's more so because of the fact that the light side should not notice the dark side, and vice versa. Not even vice versa. It's just the light side shouldn't notice the dark, because with the light shining through, the dark can't exist. That kind of analogy. And that's another reason why I love all the dark side members not just being, comically evil villains that just want to kill everybody and go on a rampage strike. No. They have detailed agendas and goals, but they discreetly go about it, not having the light side discover them. But that aside, everyone just had their minds blown when the voice on the phone was revealed to be Hanano, because that was an ever permeating mystery in the mainline novels, and nobody really knew who the fuck the voice on the phone was. But to know, like, I really like how the volume kind of threw us for a loop, saying, "Oh, the voice of the phone was killed by Mukino," but no, that's actually a body double. The voice of the phone was actually Hanano, and her whole ability to switch up makeup really suits her because she has decoy voice on the phones under her that give directions to the other dark side member groups that Academy City has been training up.
You basically said what I was gonna say. I love the 10 out of 10 move of them discovering the voice on the phone, but still it wasn't like the real one. But just them going to the effort of finding the one who set them up was, oh my god! it was such a great moment. That was a 11 out of 10 moment. It was awesome. Even I didn't expect that. The voices on the phone were like, to me, were seen as like this impervious level that no one could reach, and yet I done found them. I'm just like, wow, that's awesome. This series, and I'm gonna say it for both item 1 and 2, much like Railgun being an all girl centered series, this set of a 4-girl team is just them being badasses. All 4 girls individually are badasses.
Bro. Bro. Literally is, though. That's the thing. The even crazier fact for me was that the voice on the phone, who we now know as Hanano, was actually at the end of the volume talking to Alistair.
Yeah.
About what to do with these girls, because the original plan was like train up these 2 supposedly items, and then whichever one survives is now the definitive de facto item,
which triggers volume 2
so
in a very appropriate way.
Yep. And the plot of it's just something that, if you've read Index, if you read the mainline novels, you already know, like Aita, the fraud items leader, calling herself, the number 6. Yeah, that's a lie. We already know that's a lie. Nobody would be buying it unless you're just an anime only.
It's Algami Pierce.
And yes, unless you're just an anime only, and the item is the first light novel series of Index that you've read, of Toaru, I mean. So that would be cool for newer fans, but like for older fans, it's just, yeah, that's a lie. But to point out another thing, item 1 was like the first thing that really hyped the whole Dark Side's Bane thing, and it's even more hyped up in item volume 2. So it kind of feels like Kamachi has a chance of, making the Dark Side's Bane actually make an appearance, not in the mainline novels, but in fucking item.
Technically, they did in GT2.
This is the first time we're getting more about. Before that, we just knew they disliked villains, but didn't really have any context for what that statement even meant. But in item, especially in 1 and 2, we now know to what extent this guy just hates villains. So that's mostly it for me. But about it, actually, another talking point would be, what do you think about the art? I didn't like it.
About what? I couldn't understand much.
Oh, sorry. I said, what did you think of the art style for all the illustrations?
Oh, I love it, actually. I love the art. I love seeing. I just appreciate the art. I appreciate any art for books such as this because I have such a hard time visualizing. So getting any snippet of art in its style is really cool.
Some people are criticizing it because it didn't fit the tone of the volume and the item as a group.
But like, what if that's intentional?
And would depend on.
Think of it this way: we have dark side centered actions, plans, infiltrations, deaths, and we get an art style that looks super cute and cool, but more on like probably emphasizing these female characters a lot more. But what if the art is supposed to be a contrast to the content of the novel?
That's something that I personally like, and that's what I personally as well. It's supposed to be contracts, but to some of the people, they have valid criticisms because some people would have really appreciated, like this style. They would have really appreciated if some scenes were like drawn out, not just another fan service scene illustration, Because Kamachi's writing can be a bit hard to visualize as well in some of the action scenes. So having like one or two more illustrations specifically for the action would have helped a lot. I kind of, but yeah, in my opinion, how I see it, it's supposed to be a contrast. So I agree with you there.
I like the covers too. I like the covers being Friend and Mugino for Volume 1. And then we get Takitsubo and Kinohara in Volume 2. I know Mugino's on Volume 3? I'm not sure about the other one though. But hey, maybe I'll find out later.
You mentioned earlier in the recording of Takitsubo standing up to Mugino and knowing her way about where to avoid Mugino's landmines. That gets more hinted at and a bit expanded upon in Volume 2.
That it does.
Another point that I would like to... Another point that you didn't mention was Frenda and seeing her sister Framea. These two interacting, oh my god.
I kind of want to comment on 2 actually, because there was a good point you brought up for 1 that I think is really good for Frenda and Framea in 2. So I'm with you, but not yet. It is cute seeing her sister again, where I barely started getting to know her in NT1 though.
I meant it more something happens in NT, and seeing her before that, well, you'll have to read NT, my brother, to understand how much I appreciate that, and of course the start of Item Volume 2 as well.
Well, I mean, she's dead in NT, so I get it.
What?
Ain't Frenda dead by the time NT1 starts and they're hanging out in a year prior to her dying?
I mean, yes, but I mean something else that I'm not going to elaborate on that happens in NT.
Oh, never mind then.
Relating to Frenda.
I thought that was the bigger point you're trying to make, and I'm like, bro, I'm not stupid, she's dead.
Since we don't really have much else to say for Item 1, let's actually this off with a bit of a favorites ranking of who do you think your rankings of all the item girls.
Oh, I don't know. I'm actually loving Kinohara a lot more. So I would probably say Kinohara's best girl.
Enough, actually. Kinohara. Alright.
Well, like, I can't just put everyone in different places. Like, I don't want to say, for example, Frenda's 4th or Mugino's 4th, because this is a year prior to main story, but just collecting knowledge here and there and how they interacted. They're all good characters. I love them all. Mugino being the crazy battle freak that she is.
More of a...
Frenda being the
a battle
Academy City Bomber is the craziest title ever, but I like reading how knowledgeable about bombs she is. And Takitsubo just continues to surprise me more and more. So I don't know if I can really fairly place them on a 1 through 4 list. And I don't want to.
Fair enough. I just meant more of a selected favorites ranking, but we'll get to it. For me personally, I would say, actually, before I tell you my ranking, one thing that I do want to point out that was it's kind of pretty central to Kinohara's character is the fact that she likes B movies, and C movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the entire reason she does so is because of the fact that in the lab, those kids just didn't have any other option for entertainment.
And they were
So they were
watching
fed,
movies.
yes, they were fed these psychologically brainwashing movies, subliminal messaging throughout the entire movie to being experimented on. So the thing they are consuming is being forced onto them, and they don't really have anything else to consume, so that they couldn't be brainwashed even further. And that's where her love for B movies and C movies comes from. That's kind of a bit messed up, as you can say.
Tragically sad. But her character is
I
kind of
remember-
good because of it.
True, true. And the tendency to saying super every single time.
That doesn't.
I'm gonna be honest.
It doesn't annoy me as much as third-person speech does. So I give it a pass because of how funny it can be used in like the right moments.
I give the third person speech a pass as well, not gonna lie. I'm probably used to it. That's probably the reason. But I have to say though, before reading Item, I never realized how many characters have their own unique speech patterns.
Dude, I hate you reminded me. I hate Frenda saying like in the end so many times. That shit is just like their person. I'm like, why would you have to start saying in the end? And then Fremia does the opposite. I'm like,
In the beginning.
in the beginning, in the end. I understand how it helps identify characters, but God, it's annoying.
It isn't to me, and I like it that it's annoying to you, so even more bonus points.
Bruh. When you were
there's still the
touching that
disconnect,
topic,
right?
you reminded me of how much I hate that repetition. But it helps me identify Frenda, so I can't really complain too much.
Okay. But yeah, that's about it for this one. And it was funny seeing how before Hamazura, we had random item goon.
Yeah. No Goat Hamazura, we had just random delinquents. I'm surprised at how organized it is,
That's more so
too.
relating to NT. I mean, it's official dark side business spot, and tied into the higher ups of Academy City, so makes sense.
It does, actually, and I never really thought about how layered it is. In, like, operations, cleanup, getaways. It's really cool.
That's about it. Next thing I know, I'm probably gonna be ranting a lot more on NT2. That
Item 2.
what am I saying? Okay, my brain is fried.
Me too, bro, on item 2.
Item 2, because item 2 is gonna be a 2-hour long recording. You know why?
No.
Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. If you didn't, feel free to dislike. And if you want to share your thoughts, be sure to share them in the comments down below. As for all the socials, you can find me on Twitter and Bedhead on Instagram, and his own personal challenge, no, not challenge, in the description down below. We both will be sure to catch up with you all in the next video that would be item 2. Bye-bye.
This is Bedhead, guys, and don't forget, never stop being a weeb. Catch you later.